The moment you defend yourself, power quietly slips out of your hands. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way people can easily point to, but in a psychological way that changes how others see you from that moment forward. Most people think defending themselves is strength. They believe explanations protect reputation. They assume clarity restores respect. In reality, the opposite happens. The instant you start explaining, you accept a hidden position of weakness. You place yourself beneath the person questioning you. You silently agree that they have the right to judge you. Power doesn't disappear because you were wrong. It disappears because you submitted to evaluation. This isn't about being quiet because you're afraid. It's not about avoiding conflict. And it's not about letting people walk over you. This is about strategic dominance. Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that still governs human behavior today. Power is maintained through positioning. Whoever controls the frame controls the outcome. And the fastest way to lose the frame is to defend yourself. From childhood, you were trained to explain. Teachers asked you to show your work. Parents asked why you did something. Authority figures demanded justification. Over time, your brain linked explanation with safety. So when someone challenges you as an adult, your nervous system reacts instantly. Your heart rate rises. Your thoughts race. You feel pressure to speak quickly and clearly. You want to remove tension. You want to fix the misunderstanding. That urge feels intelligent, but it is emotional. The moment you defend yourself, 3 shifts occur. First, you validate the accusation. Even responding tells the other person their challenge deserves attention. Second, you elevate them into the role of judge. You are no longer equal. You are being assessed. Third, you put yourself in recovery mode, trying to regain status you just surrendered. Power never lives in recovery mode. Every conversation contains an invisible hierarchy. One person evaluates. The other is evaluated. Even when people smile, even when they sound polite, the hierarchy is always there. When you defend yourself, you step into the lower position. Here's the uncomfortable truth. This happens even when you are completely right. Human psychology doesn't reward accuracy first. It rewards emotional posture first. Calm certainty signals authority. Urgent explanation signals insecurity. That's why explaining feels logical but looks weak. Logic lives in words. Power lives in presence. Silence, on the other hand, carries weight most people underestimate. Silence is not empty. Silence is pressure. When someone accuses you, they expect movement. They expect resistance. They expect defense. Silence denies them all 3. It creates a psychological vacuum. And the human mind cannot tolerate a vacuum. When you don't explain yourself, the other person starts filling the space. They question their certainty. They wonder why their words aren't landing. They feel discomfort, not because you attacked them, but because you didn't react. Silence forces people inward. Instead of focusing on you, they start focusing on themselves. They begin recalculating the risk. That's why manipulators need you to defend yourself. Manipulation requires engagement. It requires emotional reaction. It requires momentum. When you explain, you give them access. When you argue, you give them control. When you defend, you give them leverage. But when you stay calm and minimal, their strategy collapses. They lose rhythm. And manipulation without rhythm dies quickly. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He observed that the person who justifies themselves accepts judgment. Judgment leads to comparison. Comparison leads to weakness. The powerful don't argue their value. They assume it. Assumption shapes perception. Perception shapes reality. This does not mean you never speak. It means you never speak from below. There is a difference between fearful silence and strategic silence. Fearful silence looks tense. Strategic silence looks relaxed. Your posture stays open. Your breathing stays slow. Your expression stays neutral. You are not frozen. You are unmoved. And being unmoved unsettles people who are trying to control you. The calmest person in the room controls the room. Not because they dominate verbally, but because they dominate emotionally. Emotional control sends one message: this does not threaten me. And what does not threaten you cannot control you. When you stop defending yourself, people feel it immediately. They hesitate before pushing further. Accusations lose intensity. The dynamic shifts without you saying a word. Your calm becomes a boundary. This is the foundation. Next, you'll learn how to apply it in real conversations without becoming passive, and how to respond with a few controlled words that keep you on top. Picture a common scene. You're in a meeting, and someone says, So this delay is on you, right? Your instinct is to start listing reasons, timelines, emails, and obstacles. But notice what that does. It turns you into the defendant in a trial you didn't ask for. Now the room isn't listening for truth, it's listening for weakness. Every extra detail sounds like pleading, even if the details are real. Or think about a personal confrontation. Someone throws a loaded statement like, "You always do this," or "You're selfish." If you rush to prove you're not, you've accepted their label as the starting point. You're arguing inside their frame. And the more you argue inside their frame, the stronger their frame becomes. Strategic dominance begins when you refuse that starting point. You don't fight the label. You don't chase approval. You hold still, you stay measured, and you decide what deserves your energy. That's why silence feels risky at first. It removes the comfort of explaining your way out. But it replaces that comfort with something stronger: control. Control over tempo. Control over emotion. Control over status. In the next section, we'll break down the exact Machiavellian flip, the simple responses, the pauses, and the posture cues that make other people back up without you ever defending yourself. You'll learn when to stay silent, when to speak, and how to end confrontations cleanly, so the other person feels the pressure, not you every single time, consistently. When you stop defending yourself, the next challenge is knowing what to do instead. Silence alone is powerful, but dominance comes from controlled response, not endless quiet. This is where most people fail. They either over-explain or go completely mute in a way that looks unsure. Strategic power lives in the middle. The Machiavellian flip begins with understanding tempo. Whoever controls tempo controls the interaction. When someone accuses you, they are trying to speed you up. They want you reacting, filling space, justifying, scrambling. Your first move is always to slow everything down. Slower breathing, slower speech, slower decisions. This immediately reverses pressure. Instead of answering instantly, pause. That pause alone communicates confidence. Humans interpret hesitation differently based on posture. Nervous people hesitate while looking tense. Powerful people hesitate while looking relaxed. Same pause. Completely different message. When a response is required, keep it short and grounded. One sentence is usually enough. 2 sentences is the maximum. Anything beyond that starts to sound like defense. The goal is not to convince. The goal is to end evaluation. Statements like, "That's not accurate," "I don't agree with that," or "That's not how I see it," work because they stop the frame without feeding it. They neither attack nor explain. They place you back on equal ground. Often, the other person will feel compelled to continue talking. Let them. The more they talk, the more exposed they become. Another key principle is refusing false urgency. Accusations often come with emotional pressure. Raised voices, sharp tone, loaded words. These are designed to force quick reactions. You do not match urgency. You neutralize it. Calm tone, steady volume, relaxed posture. This creates emotional contrast. Contrast weakens aggression. Notice how powerful figures respond publicly. They don't chase every comment. They don't correct every assumption. They choose when to speak. Silence filters relevance. Not everything deserves energy. By not responding to low-value challenges, you silently downgrade them. This is especially important in group settings. When you defend yourself in front of others, you turn the audience into judges. When you remain composed, the audience starts questioning the accuser instead. People instinctively side with emotional stability. Calm always looks like control. Over time, this behavior reshapes how people treat you. When others realize accusations don't move you, they stop using them. When explanations aren't offered, entitlement disappears. Boundaries form without arguments. But there is one internal obstacle that must be addressed: the need to be understood. Many people defend themselves because they want fairness. They want recognition. They want others to see their intentions. Power does not require understanding. Power requires self-trust. The moment you no longer need validation, your behavior changes automatically. You stop rushing. You stop oversharing. You stop explaining personal choices. This inner shift is what makes external silence convincing. Without it, silence feels forced. With it, silence feels natural. Detachment is essential here. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It means you don't allow other people's emotions to dictate your behavior. You observe first. You decide second. You respond last. This sequence keeps you in control. As you practice this, you'll notice something important. People start adjusting around you. Conversations shorten. Challenges soften. Tone changes. This is not because you became intimidating. It's because you became predictably unreactive. Predictability in emotional control creates safety and authority at the same time. Eventually, you reach a point where defending yourself feels unnecessary. Not because nothing is said about you, but because nothing said about you feels threatening. That is the state Machiavelli understood well. When attacks don't shake you, they lose value. This is what it means to become untouchable. Not invincible. Not arrogant. Untouchable. You still speak when necessary. You still act when required. But you never scramble. You never plead. You never explain from below. Your position is assumed, not negotiated. This brings us to the final truth. Power is not loud. Power is not reactive. Power is not desperate to be understood. Power is calm, selective, and grounded. The moment you stop defending yourself, you stop feeding insecurity. You stop training others to question you. You stop reinforcing frames that place you beneath them. Instead, you hold your ground quietly. And people feel it. That is the Machiavellian trick. Not manipulation. Not cruelty. Just awareness of human psychology and the discipline to act accordingly. In a world where everyone is explaining, justifying, and reacting, the person who stays composed stands out instantly. Silence becomes presence. Presence becomes authority. Remember this the next time you feel the urge to explain. Pause. Ask yourself whether the explanation is necessary or whether it is simply an old habit trying to protect your ego. Choose control over comfort. Choose position over approval. Choose silence over submission. That choice, repeated consistently, changes how the world responds to you.